TJ, thanks. Yeah, thanks again for the connect. So I think we're 3 minutes in. Jason, I'm just going to open up. You, like I said, you fill in where I have holes. All right, everyone. So we have some news about a venue shift that I wanted to share with you. We're going to take the first 10, 15 minutes to go over what's happening. I'll give some color as to why it's happening the way it's happening. And I'll let Jason and Matt conclude the beginning portion of this with details and updates. So the bummer news is the provost of Notre Dame came in and basically killed a lot of the guest events that were coming. And the upshot of that is we still want to do live, and it's going to be shifting to Fort Wayne. So that's a really short, skinny version of what's happening. It was planned at Notre Dame's campus, no longer though. And so the logic here in terms of why it happened was that the evolving COVID situation, Notre Dame set up a lot of different protocols on how to do these types of things. We were totally compliant with all of it. We got VP approval. We informed everybody. We dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's. But what I think happened is students all started coming on campus. We have a very new provost who's getting her feet wet and started considering what all the implications were if there was an outbreak on the student body. We assured that it wasn't likely, and we'd taken a lot of the protocols, but it ended up just not working out. So that's the unfortunate news that it's just kind of heartbreaking for my part, but I have been so impressed with OSV's ability to essentially pick up the baton as we're going into maintaining the live event status and the new location. All of you provided flight information so that you would get into South Bend. That's just being rearranged, and Matt Smith is taking point on that for the project management side of a lot of these. And we're trying to provide seamless integration with them so that you guys have as minimal disruption to your plans as possible. But that's the quick skinny on it. Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about the transition?
Yeah, so you might be aware, maybe you're not, OSV's sort of home is Fort Wayne, Huntington, and we're bringing you to OSV land and sort of create a sort of a bubble. So I get it from a Notre Dame standpoint. I mean, we're disappointed. I think all of us are, but we also get the idea of trying to protect the students. And so even in Fort Wayne, you know, we think we can set up a really nice event, a great experience, but protect community as well as all of you. So with that said, I do want to just cover a few things. You'll likely, when we do this live, will be asked to sign a waiver. And I want to emphasize something that maybe has been emphasized and maybe we haven't, maybe people have forgotten. You do not have to come live. It is a virtual event. We have judges that are going to be virtual. I think we have 200 and almost 50 people signed up virtually right now. We have donors and investors that some will be virtual. We do have some people signed up live. Your prize, you're not impacted. It doesn't mean that you're viewed less because you weren't live. So you know your circumstances, you know your family circumstances. No one is forcing you to take a risk, and why would you for a chance at some dollars, right? So if you have family situations, if you have personal concerns, simply don't come, right? We would need to know though by maybe like tomorrow at say 5. So if you get off this call and you're like, I have asked a lot of people, coaches and otherwise, who said that many of you want to see each other, want to interact with each other, want that camaraderie, that it wasn't Notre Dame per se of why if you wanted to go live. A lot of even what we were going to do at Notre Dame was increasingly becoming restricted. So we're going to have a great time, but I just want to let you know that and emphasize from the head of all of this that you shouldn't put you or your family at risk if you have a concern. With that, we're going to take every precaution we can. We do know we have people coming from all over the world, international and otherwise, and so we will be wearing masks when we need to wear masks. We will be socially distanced. We will have hand sanitizer, and we're happy to share any of those safety protocols. We are working with every venue. We are not putting more people in a venue that, we want to make sure everything is spaced out. So all of the things that you could think of to keep everybody as safe as we can will be in place. But this is completely your option, and you'll need to sign a waiver given that. So you will be, if you don't come, it's okay. You'll still present, you'll still do the things. Also, please know that we are behind the scenes doing a lot of work. John, Notre Dame, us are doing a lot of work to try to get as many donors and investors to participate. And we really hope that we're creating some wins beyond just the prizes themselves. We are also working very hard on media. So Anthony and Sherwood's doing a lot of marketing. That's why we're up to 250 just virtual participants, as well as I think I am on the radio now almost twice a week promoting this event around the country to get more eyeballs and people. So beyond financial rewards, if you will, I'm really trying to hope that we're pointing people to you that helps build networks and exposure and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just if you ever want to Google my interview with Busted Halo, by the way, I was not familiar with them, and boy, was that a fun one. I was doing all kinds of stuff. As I wanted to make sure I introduce Matt Smith, who has been in the background during all this. Matt has taken the lead to sort of be the project manager for the event and demo day. I've asked John and the continued coaches at Notre Dame to really help you guys, continue to help you with your pitches. So think about us sort of planning the event with Anthony and Courtney and others. And John and his team are going to be working with you in the next weeks on your actual pitch. So Matt is here. Michelle is my assistant, who's going to be working on the flights. And so as John said, you will be flying into Fort Wayne Airport and not South Bend Airport. For some of you, that's positive news because it may mean less flights. But in both cases, it's probably 2 flights. So, and then I guess last on my list, and then I'll let Matt say anything and answer any questions. It's a good idea, to maybe limit your exposure now as you're coming in to be with the group, as well as, I would encourage you all to take your own safety protocols. And then if as we get close to the event, your temperature's up or there's something, to just not come, right? Just to keep everybody in mind of exposure. So Matt, I did want to let you say something, introduce yourself, and offer anything I forgot before we open it up to any concerns or questions.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. One, a lot of you I have emailed and talked with virtually. So I've been lurking behind the scenes on a lot of things, but going to be a little bit more upfront now. A couple of things just to let you know. For this event, as Jason said, do consider your own circumstances, discern about it, what you want to do. But we really would like to have an answer by tomorrow at 5, because then Michelle's going to start reaching out about plane reservations and start making that. We have your earlier breakdown of who was planning on driving and who was planning on flying. If the location changed to Fort Wayne, changes that, can you let myself know, and then I'll work internally. The second thing, as Jason said, is we are working really hard to sort of make this a bubble effect in terms of downtown Fort Wayne. And so limiting the venues to our hotel, there's a venue that we're going to use for demo day and maybe some of the meals, and then another venue that we're going to use for the Friday night celebration. They're all within 2 to 3 blocks of each other in terms of walking. We should be pretty good. We'll see if we need to have vans or anything like that. Some of this is a little fluid right now, but we'll start to take more shape that I'm hopeful by the end of the week I can share a schedule with the venues where we are. Everything we have planned, we just have to sign some contracts and some things like that. And so really trying to do a bubble. We will be in venues that for the most part will be only us. I think for all of it will be only us. So there's less of that student working around. We're certainly sensitive to Notre Dame's decision making and understand that. but really working, like I said, to make it a bubble with the downtown venues that we have. If you are not familiar with Fort Wayne, I would say just take a look at Parkview Field, and everything that we're going to do is within a 2 or 3 block of that. And so you can
we're thinking about like botanical gardens. They have a nice garden outdoors as one evening, so we'll be outdoors for something like that.
And as Jason said too,
the other thing is you don't need to run.
We will work very hard. We will do, masks, sanitizers. We'll have some COVID protocols for you to follow every morning as we get closer to the contest and some things like that. We will make this, I won't quite guarantee the NBA bubble experience, but we will do our best to make it a bubble experience as much as possible. So like I said, the next 2 or 3 days are going to kind of be a little bit fluid as we finalize the venues and the schedule of events. But by the end of the week, I should be able to get out to you a schedule of where everything's going to be at. Probably by Thursday, Michelle will start reaching out to you that are flying to make flight arrangements, and we'll go from there. Appreciate everybody's cooperation, appreciate everybody's flexibility, and we're looking for an outstanding event. So I look forward to meeting all of you in person, and whatever we need to do virtual, we will do.
And then lastly, I just want to let everybody know, I know this isn't the first time we've had a change in this challenge. I'm cognizant of that. This was our sort of outside of our control. But we, like you, are learning how to pivot and be entrepreneurs and iterate. And so I really appreciate your patience with all of this, especially during this COVID time. And now, does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask or a concern? If you don't want to ask it in the group, feel free to Slack Matt or I or John or anyone.
I have a couple questions.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can go.
Great. So I just have a quick question. Anna and myself, we were going to be coming in from Milwaukee and renting a car, and we were going to submit that info, I thought it was someone at Notre Dame. But so would we need to let you know by tomorrow if we'd fly or still want to rent a car? How would that work?
Yeah, just go talk to Matt about all those details.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
him and Michelle will work it out.
Okay, great.
How's that, Matt? How's that for punting?
That's excellent, Jason. Yeah, Shannon, I have a good friend that travels back and forth to Milwaukee. The drive isn't too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd still be the same. You make the decision whatever you want to do. I don't think you probably have to fly from Milwaukee to Chicago to South Bend or Fort Wayne. Right. And the drive isn't that much further. So yes, any receipts like that will just start coming through Michelle Hogan
Awesome.
at OSV. And she'll, like I said, she'll reach out in the next, probably by Thursday, start reaching out to folks.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Eric,
it sounded like you had one.
Yeah, a couple questions actually. First, are the judges going to be in person still, or are we still waiting to hear from them?
Yeah, we have about we have about half in person and half that are virtual. We knew that before, and I suspect that's going to be around the same. But we're going to reach out to them shortly after we talk to you.
Okay, got it. And then second, I know originally the plan had been to have it over a series of 3 days. The first day largely reserved to get people to Notre Dame. I imagine, is that itinerary unchanged? Is it still going to be over 3 days? I don't know if we were going to try to limit it to 2 days. Still over 3 days?
The plan is still to come in on a Friday. We will have some networking, social prayer experience Friday evening. Saturday is bulk demo day, interviews where we've all kinds of different things with a reception Saturday night. We are handing out the awards, the prizes Saturday night, so you will know right then and there. And then Sunday is wake up, have brunch and mass, or mass and brunch, and then again is a travel home day. So that's sort of how we have it scheduled. Currently, not that you couldn't try to fly out late Saturday night if you really wanted to, but we were sort of looking at that as a time of celebrating, debriefing, networking, talking, and being together.
Yeah, no, that works great. Thanks.
I will say that probably Sunday we'll have an earlier start, and people will be able to leave a little earlier than we had originally planned, mainly because of the mass time at the cathedral that's within walking distance. So probably an early breakfast on Saturday morning, mass for those, and then probably out of there by about 9:30 or 10.
Gotcha.
And the hotel will shuttle people back and forth from the airport, so you don't have to rent a car to go from the airport to downtown.
Great.
Any
What's the
last
best way
questions?
to get a hold of? Sorry. What's the best way to get a hold of Matt or Michelle? Just email or through Slack, or I don't want to bombard them, but I thought I'd better ask.
Matt?
Yeah, it's probably the best and fastest. Slack is fine. I sometimes don't see everything that's happening in Slack. I'm not a Slack aficionado quite yet. I'm sure I will be in the next 3 weeks. But just M. Smith and then mhogan@osv.com. But you'll probably start seeing emails from us anyway. But that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Great.
I have a question. So you said that some of the judges are going to be virtual, and I know that a lot of the media is. I'm just making sure that if I don't go, because my son is special, that I'm not missing out on a chunk of something that I'm going to then regret missing, because it would be easier for my family if I'm here, but maybe better for my prayer corner if I'm there. That makes
Right.
sense?
So the only thing that you would miss that's probably not virtual, not that I can't get my phone and hold it up for you, is like a Friday night when we're at the Botanical Gardens together. It's just us together. Everything related to Saturday, you would participate in. We're creating Zoom rooms for everybody, so that if a donor or an investor wants to talk to you, as well as media. If there's an interview, Kate will, say, Karina, so-and-so wants to talk to you, and we can do that remote as well. So, but of course, like Sunday morning, some of that, I would guess, especially for you, Karina, or for those who are remote, we will make the awards that evening and stuff remote as well. So I hope that helps. But I have a special needs daughter. It would be really hard for me as well. So I get your circumstances, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I said in particular that your judging is not affected because this person's in person and this person's remote. But the decision's got to be yours. I would say right now, Karina, though, that most you're having a lot of investors, a lot of donors virtual. There are some coming, and we have reserved spots for media, but there is a lot virtual. So it's not, you could be here and still doing stuff virtually. And if a bunch of you say, you know what, I'd rather just do this virtually, that's why we want to know by tomorrow at 5, because the other option is just to go to all virtual. It's been our understanding that a lot of people wanted to stay live, and that there's a loss there if we don't. So we're trying to continue to do both. But again, if you provide feedback, in the next 24 hours, we can pivot again if we have to. That's okay. Any other last questions? I know this wasn't the whole purpose of your meeting today. So again, if you do have more questions, message Matt or I, and we're happy to answer them. And then we're going to go from there. I think this is going to be great. We're looking forward to hosting you here in town.
Yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out with any kind of question that you might have. I'll answer as expediently as I can. And like I said, over the next couple of days, it's a little fluid as we try to finalize some of the venues and make sure we've got everything that we need to make sure that's a safe experience for you, but also a fun experience. Even coming in late to this, I've really enjoyed getting to know your projects and you as people. And so I I hope we get a chance to meet, but also, as Jason said, if 8 of the 12 suddenly say, let's do virtual, we'll pivot again. We'll make this work. We'll make this work for you all. We put so much work into this. So thanks a lot for your grace and flexibility as we move forward.
Just want to express how much I wish we could all be together. I was joking with John Kennan and Karina. It feels like we need that big campfire at the end of camp, summer camp,
Amen.
like that. So with the suffering of COVID, so I really, really wish we could all be together, but what can you do?
Yeah, again,
Thank
we're
you,
working to make that happen and to make it as a safe experience as we can. But I also don't want people to feel obligated.
Totally understand.
All right.
I got a random question. I love Fort Wayne. Is the museum open?
It is.
Which
it is
museum?
open. The Fort Wayne Art Museum.
Awesome. Not that necessarily impacts my decision. Just interesting.
The modern
If it was the Swain, it is
the
open.
scale.
the modern art museum is open. It can't hold the number we're looking at for an event because of COVID, but it should be open, and we have spoken to them. For those who don't know, those who run that are coaches within the challenge, and we have a great relationship with them. They're Catholics and really creative artists themselves. All right.
Seconding on Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is awesome. So it's just got this cool, small, lively town feel. So campus is awesome. Fort Wayne is also another awesome venue just to have this kind of pedestrian lifestyle for a few days. So if that matters, it's really a great spot.
Nah, Fort Wayne's fantastic. I love it.
All right, guys.
All
Thanks
right,
so much.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, Karina, all of those types of things there's going to be a virtual equivalent. Okay. All right, guys. So the rest of today's session after that bombshell is to focus on the pitch event itself. And so I'll let us just have a moment to kind of recollect and transition. But as we're doing that, I want to reemphasize that virtual pitches can work really well. And we've done it with our McCloskey annual business plan competition. So we just did it last year, got a lot of really positive reviews. And we just did a student demo day that some of you guys might have seen. And so virtual presentations can be still very effective. And we've been learning how to do it. And there are some tips and tricks that we'll talk about today on it, but the majority of today is just the fundamentals of the pitch. I set this up to give you guys some more exposure into actual pitches that we've seen and what's worked and what hasn't, and some guidelines on it. We're gonna conclude today. You're gonna hear from Michael Wicks and his wife, Lori Marr, and they have worked at the Idea Center to develop the pitches that have been used by a lot of Notre Dame's Idea Center companies and that have raised millions of dollars. So this is a very powerful pitch team to listen to. Today, they're gonna actually do a case study on how they got to the pitch and what their process was for building the narrative, which is kind of a Michael Wicks capability, and also the design of it, which is the Lorimar capability. And I'm gonna start by just showing you some student ones. So we're gonna talk again about how to do it virtually, what are just fundamentals of good pitching, and we're gonna conclude with this case study. If people can go over a little bit, that would help give Wicks and Lorimar a little more time. If you can't, just remember this is all recorded, so you can always access it later. But this is going to be a little bit extended session than what's on your calendar invite. All right, everyone. So my part of it, so my front half, is going to go over pitches in general. The first thing that I want to call your attention to is understanding what matters most in a pitch. We had one speaker come to our student teams earlier and say, you've got to start thinking from the perspective of your audience. And the audience that's going to be listening to you is going to be listening to a lot of pitches. And you have a lot of content that you want to deliver, but you're going to have to remember that simplicity is really going to be your friend with a lot of this. We're working on finer grained detail on the pitch scoring criteria. You guys will get it when we have it, but it's 3 basic story beats that you want to make sure come through abundantly clear in your pitch. And it's interesting because these are often missed in our pitches that we see too. You'll see that it's not always, here's this really cool solution we have. It's a lot of the things that cover it. Let me go through the 3 beats. So we've talked about this in Slack, but I just want to reemphasize it right now. The first one is that you have a really big and important problem to solve. You all do, which is why you made it to the finalist round. But making sure that you give visceral impact, an emotional connection to this problem is going to matter. So when you think of people remembering 1 to 3 things at the end of your pitch, you got to make people feel the problem. So that's one of them. And that's one of the 3 you're going to be graded on. The other is that you have a team that's well positioned to be able to address this problem. You or your team are capable and have the values of the program itself and can solve and meet this problem. The third beat is that you have traction. You have some type of evidence that people care that you're doing something right. You'll notice something really interesting in those 3 beats. Your solution needs to be part of your presentation, but it's not the most important thing. It's not one of the 3 beats that ultimately is going to determine whether you got it or not. You do want a clear solution description, but remember, you are solving a huge problem. You've got a really well-positioned, capable team to meet it, and you have some evidence that you're doing it. That last item is a flexible term. Traction is a flexible term. TJ, I'm thinking of you guys, HA Films. You don't have an audience yet that you might consider initially with traction. But Dave, you sent a Slack message recently that said, look, we have partnership traction. Traction is fungible. And so HA Films' traction is going to look different than Harbor's traction. But it's important because ultimately you want to show that this isn't just a cool idea, but people, your users, the people that you want to change, the people in the problem care and are being affected and are starting to go towards it. I'm going to pause right there because there could be a lot of questions, but this is almost the most important part of my talk is there's going to be 3 factors: problem, team, traction. And that's what we want. We'll actually start getting into presentations, but I want you to understand the importance of those 3 things.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Values has been part of the criteria for a little while. I'm curious as to what that means, because we're all Catholic. We're all finalists in this program, which I would assume evinces, pretty significant alignment to the values of the program. So I'm curious what exactly is being looked for there.
Yeah. So you'll see a pitch or 2 that are going to come up. And a lot of it is sincerity and authenticity. Like, do you have a story that connects you to this? And are you showing that you remember in one of the pitches where it's kind of what is your heart break for type questions as one of the finalist rounds? So who you are matters a lot to this program. That's one of the early demonstrations of where you got a values question. That type of story just needs to be continued and brought through to this end. So you're going to be able to articulate a personal connection to whatever this is, but you also don't want to leave it at you're just someone who can empathize. You also want to be able to describe you're someone who's capable of being able to bring it to bear. So that is the combination of what we want to talk about. There are going to be finer detailed questions. This is kind of what I'm going to be working with Matt Smith over. So OSV ultimately owns the judging criteria. We're consulting for it. We want to get you the finer detailed questions. But when you see Jada's pitch in a little bit, so she did Techstars and she's rated $1 million off of it, you're going to find out that she had a good connection with the story and she was also the right person to address it. So you empathize, and you're capable.
Thanks.
You bet.
I have a question.
Okay. Yep.
If that's possible. When it
is
comes
possible.
to the yeah, when it comes to the pitch, I sort of feel like I'm torn in two directions, and this might just be me, but am I pitching for the donors, or am I pitching for the judges?
Excellent question. So there's a component that's common to pitches that I've talked to a few of you about. It's the ask slide. So I'm gonna answer your question by saying, how do we navigate the ask? Because the ask in some pitches, it's very common to say, I want $100,000. Here's my use of funds that are going to go with it. I've even consulted. So Anna and Shannon, I've talked to you about nested asks and things like that. After we've worked it through with OSV, one of the things that you want to do in this ask portion, and this is how you address both groups, is you're going to write a short synopsis of your use of funds that is delivered straight to the judges. That is not in your presentation. The reason is because if you leave the ask in the presentation to be, I want to have more conversations with you, not I want $250,000 from you or something like that. So Jan, what we're trying to get you in the broad mass market pitch is to get more people to talk to. And these are the investors and donors that are going to be able to support you. You are going to have to navigate those conversations offline, but your win coming out of this is like, imagine you got a pocket full of business cards and you got an email full of digital introductions. That's the win that you come out of this. And JM, I know that when I've talked to you about it, navigating that dichotomy between the competition prize and who you're going to ask for and how that kind of makes you guys all look next to each other, I'll show you a very compelling way to show your ask as let's talk more. Like it ends up being a commercial rather than a conventional, I'm pitching with these terms.
So let me just emphasize
Great.
that point. This is Jason. We're trying to thread a needle there. We will tell the judges that they're not to ask you, what would you do with $100,000? Because we're going to point out to them there's a larger audience here that you're pitching to. However, we do think it's a question that they're going to want to know. So we're asking you to provide, what would you do with a $100,000 prize in writing? Some of you and most of you have done that already in previous rounds, but my thinking is it's become much more refined and focused now. So if you could think about getting me like a page or a paragraph, we are creating basically a judge's website that's going to have your bio, your, a project description, the rubric, and we would love to put that on there. So they will know in writing what you would do with it. Now, if you were to get the question by mistake or one with someone wants clarity, you're going to have to run with it, of course. But we're trying to solve that problem that John Henry just spoke about.
And I'll add one more bit of detail. So different accelerators have different philosophies about this. So there's one in Silicon Valley called Plug and Play. They allow people to put that in asks. Techstars and Y Combinator don't do asks in them. Elevate does asks in them. So there are just different philosophies about how you approach the ask. The reason that the people who don't do the ask is because it essentially puts the audience in a different mindset. It makes them begin considering different questions. What's your valuation? Are you actually, is this ask appropriate at this stage? Instead, for those accelerators that don't do asks, they're just trying to get people hyped up. And when you get people hyped up, what we're trying to produce is essentially a bunch of interested investors that you all can then use to be able to say, we're already in conversation with 15 people. So that gives you guys a leverage point that you might not have if you had a lot of people pre-selecting to be like, it's not worth talking because XYZ, that they got into the presentation. Instead, we want them to actually have that conversation with you to figure out if it's appropriate rather than just clicking off right in the moment. All right, I'm gonna keep going. I want to reference 2 resources that you guys are going to have. In the calendar invite, I put a lot of the resources. I'm going to double that up in Slack, and I'm going to sprint through my sections because I actually really want you guys to hear what Wix and Lori Marr are going to provide. And a lot of mine are actually referencing recordings. So I'll give you helpful context right now if you want to watch recordings on your own. And you guys have access to them. But the Wix and Lori Marr, I think actually doing a case study, a little bit deeper dive is going to be helpful. So I'm just going on to the next one. So we've provided you all with a general template through, I think it was Investor Directory it was called. That'll again be in the Slack channel. And that's really helpful for understanding how do you do a 1-sentence, how do you do a 30-second verbal pitch, how do you eventually do a pitch deck. Those are really helpful guidelines. So if you're looking for a template, that's going to be very informative. But I want to just emphasize it's the story, guys. And it's the story about how you're fighting a big problem with an awesome team that's already starting to win a little bit. That's the type of thing that you're ultimately getting. Don't over-index on a template and miss the narrative point that you need to weave through it. So there's going to be a link. There's also a Techstars pitch. I do want to show you guys this one because this is gold standard. I'm going to reference 2 student ones. I'm going to give you verbal feedback on what I got from them, but this gold standard one is really exceptional. And like I said, this one helped Jada get $1 million. So let me pull it up. And it also touches on how your ask is really a commercial. And this is a 5-minute pitch. This is remarkable what she's able to do in such a tight amount of time.
Look, there's no way that we're going to succeed.
Is audio coming through for everybody?
Yeah.
Is that working? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So Mayor Pete loved her concept. We're going to skip Mayor Pete. If you guys want to see that later, then great. It's pretty cool to have Mayor Pete intro it though. Okay, pause. This is what it's going to feel like. Screen in the back, stage in front, talking through it. She's going to interact with this really remarkably. And you're also going to see that she doesn't put a ton of language on it. She eventually distinguished that she had another deck that you as a send ahead. So when she wasn't presenting, she had language on slides. You're going to find that she does really well with visuals. She lets her words present.
Lucky. And if you grew up in a house that your parents owned, you are too. My grandmother Sadie immigrated here in 1981, bringing her kids over 2 by 2 over 15 years in pursuit of the American dream, which to her and many others was a split-level house with a white picket fence and a dog. While she never had this for herself, she wanted it for her kids. My mom achieved that dream. She became a homeowner. And the benefits of homeownership are so clear. Myself, as a product, I'm a first-generation college student and a homeowner myself. While the others in my family have not had the opportunity to benefit from homeownership. While roughly half of Americans rent, approximately 2 out of 3 renters want to own but can't. But there are affordable houses throughout the country, move-in ready houses, valued at $80,000 or less. And that's 1 in 5 houses across the United States. These could be their shot at the American dream. But our system is broken. These would-be affordable houses are out of reach. Let me tell you a secret. Due to regulations through Dodd-Frank, the closing fees are capped, forcing banks to focus on higher dollar loans. That means the traditional mortgage does not work for lower dollar properties. So what happens to these lower dollar properties? They get turned into rentals or they go vacant, perpetuating the cycle. I'm Jada McLean, and we're changing that. We're Hurry Home, a new homeownership model that is solving this problem and making these homes accessible. This is how it works today. An aspiring homeowner pays rent to a landlord, to which after paying expenses, a landlord is left with a profit and the renter keeps on renting. Hurry Home takes the landlord out of the process. A renter now becomes a Hurry Home owner, making monthly payments and earning equity in their home. Let's go through this with an example. Here's a buyer. Let's call her Barbara. She may be a nursing assistant, making approximately $40,000 a year and never missing a rent payment. We help Barbara find the house she wants to buy from a large supply of houses in her price range, around $50,000. We facilitate the purchase with investor dollars. Barbara moves in and begins earning equity for comparable to what she was paying in rent, and after 10 years, she owns it. This isn't a case study, by the way. Barbara's actually all moved in with her 2 daughters in South Bend on Brookfield Street. And Cassandra has done the same. Her next rent check is going to earn her equity in her new Hurry Home. Mr. Newton, Peyton, Roseanne, Angela, Kivana, and Jenny are all in late-stage Hurry Home buying process with 25 others approved and joining them soon. They found us through local media, channel partners, Facebook, and word of mouth. Thanks, Cassandra. And pairing these tested methods with the relationships we have established with city governments in South Bend, LaPorte, Indiana, Detroit, and west side of Chicago, we are ready to bring Hurry Home to other cities across the Midwest and to the 3,000 other cities across the United States where we will become the new standard, transitioning renters to homeowners. Oh, but wait, where do we get our capital from? We run a separate fund that only invests in real estate with an expected IR of 9%. And the best part, it's backed by the property and backed by community investments from cities, starting with South Bend. And on a $50,000 house, because the fund is paying cash, we command a 20% discount, $10,000, of which half goes to the fund and half to Hurry Home, making us profitable at close. And that, plus a transaction, servicing, and management fee, brings us to a lifetime value of over $10,000. And yes, our LTV is consistently 20% of the house value. And I know about all this because I have a background in banking with Deloitte Corporate Finance and Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And combined with John's experience in social tech ventures and microfinance as a Clinton Fellow, we have a deep understanding of the problem we are solving, and we are committed to reviving the American dream. I'm lucky, unlike 1 in 3 Americans that haven't benefited from homeownership. This once was the American dream, and it can be again. Let's make sure it's no longer luck for the following generations. If you want to bring home the new American dream, come talk to us. But you better hurry.
All right, so that is what got Jada $1 million. And so she became very well known in the Chicago investment scene. And one of the things I bet you guys know after watching her for 5 minutes is that big problem, capable team has traction. I would also not be that surprised if you're a little confused as to what the solution is. It's kind of this too fun thing. It's complex. She still did a great job describing it, but where I think you leave with emotional punch is on those 3 beats. And that's also what she looped back at the end. Just as I thought her narrative style was excellent. You don't get that from a template. The template will show you the different story parts to go in, but remember that she eventually used the components of a template to weave her own story, and you could follow her structure as she went through. I want to give 1 or 2 minutes to that I'm going to reference the student ones, and then I'm going to pass it to Wix. Question or two about that.
it looked like that physical event, that physical pitch experience, translating that digitally with teams that may be split in different places. Is that just as simple as Zoom, or are you guys exploring like another platform that can help shuttle the?
Great question, TJ. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So you noticed that they did the transition into basically screen share really well, and they had the little inset window in the bottom. That's what we're going to be structuring very similarly, and that's how we've seen. Like there's a point where you're actually just in the flow of the story, and you're not even that aware that you're not in person anymore. That's what I mean. Like virtual can be extremely effective material for it.
Thanks.
Okay, let's do one more question. Anybody have anything? Okay. So what I want to reference that I'll give you guys, again, the links to are 2 student pitches. And you're going to see a top performing one and a bottom performing one. We actually graded everybody. And the top performing one, you're going to see they kind of break some of those rules. They have a lot of text on the slide and things like that, but the story still comes through really quick. Jada, I think, has kind of a gold standard level of design on the slidesmanship of it, where the text really complements her verbiage, and that's how you want, like you want this as a seamless experience. Jada is what you go for. You can still win if you can't hit the Jada level of design in your presentation ability. So the student, I would say, didn't hit that, still hit probably a $28,000 justification level. The bottom level student did not hit almost any of the points that we're going to talk about. They didn't bring home the problem. They didn't show that their team was capable, and they didn't show any initial traction. What's pretty remarkable about it is the team that you're going to see from the students I've seen personally, and they do have a lot of capability. They just went monotone the whole time. They didn't practice. They didn't get the polish down right. And so the presentation is supposed to be a clear window, and it often fails when it's muddied up through a lack of preparation. And so Jada, her cadence of her voice was really strong. You could tell that she had probably rehearsed that maybe 10 hours, maybe 15 hours. That was a huge amount of work going into a 5-minute pitch, and it came across, and you ultimately just have a ton of confidence in her that she can do it. So she's showing you who she is in her delivery itself. The medium's the message a little bit with this world. You're going to see the student pitch that's bottom of the barrel that I'm telling you, these students are really good. They forgot big moments, and they went really boring on it, super text heavy, and you can't remember a thing by the end of it. So getting your judges to remember you and why you is really fundamental to it. All right, I see that there's a slide. Is it Karina? Can you just jump in and just ask the question?
Can you hear me? So
yeah.
I was just wondering if she's forwarding the slide, or is it supposed to be timed and I have to time it out and have it recorded in some way so that it goes along with her pitch? Like, do we have control of it? Because she's standing in front of the screen. I was a little confused.
Yeah, so in terms of timing, the way you do this is if you're doing it virtually or live, you just get cues. So you on your own are practicing towards a certain timing expectation. You see, she did it for 5 minutes and she left the stage. There wasn't Q&A afterwards. You guys have a 15-minute block where you can go up to 7 to 8 minutes in your presentation for 7 to 8 minutes of Q&A. So you're going to be sticking, it's going to be a little different than what you saw her. You're sticking around, you're able to do Q&A, and expect a visual cue so you know where you stand in that amount of time. But definitely practice towards that 7 to 8 minute mark. Okay, Edward, pitches be, imagine that these get recorded and these can get distributed. So that is extremely helpful for you guys because now you have something to share afterwards and we have something to share on your behalf.
It's tough. The thing is, we have kind of a Catholic pitch and a non-Catholic pitch. And like I got, when I was pitching to a non-Catholic last week, I got asked, was I beholden to anyone? I said the Lord. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Who are
But
you
it
beholden
just,
to?
when you're pitching to secular audiences, working for the church can be kind of not kind of more of a liability. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
Edward, this
Jason,
audience is Catholic. This audience that we're reaching out to is Catholic, and to John's point, they'll be recorded, so you can use it for any purpose or anything you want. But I will double check. I don't think we're like going Facebook Live or anything. It's really, the sharing of it would be more for you guys. We of course would share it with whatever audience is registered, and bulk of them are all going to be Catholic. So I would, if I were in your shoes for this particular audience, would gear it towards the Catholic audience.
No, and I would. It's just if the non-Catholic audience saw it, they probably wouldn't be too excited about it. Is my only thought.
Got it. So you want limited distribution.
Yes, because like we were when we're pitching with public radio and stuff like that, if we're trying to evangelize the nuns, it's not really a good thing.